Chris Waller, thanks for joining us again on Weigh In. What's your first memory of the Cox Plate, perhaps as a kid?
Good morning, boys. Definitely the Bomb Crush, our Waverley Star. And as a young fellow, as a strapper, I remember going up and had the opportunity to stay at the Ritchie's property at Takanini, and I just thought this was heaven. I think Bone Crusher had retired, but they took me down and showed me the horse in the paddock, and I thought, wow, how good does this get? I've met racing royalty, and it's amazing what those horses do for you. Really, they hook you, and we've all got so many great racing memories, and I think Winks is doing her job now to make sure the next generation are coming on board.
So easy to get hooked with a race like the Cox Plate, which you've been dominating for the last 4 years. You said yesterday on television after the race what you could, get out in that last or that immediate 3 or 4 minutes after the race, that the whole thing had gone to another level yesterday. What level has it gone to for you then?
Well, it's basically gone into shock. Really, we've gone. First one was just amazing. You've made it at that top level. To win two, that were your Sunlines and there's a lot of great horses have won two, and then in that year it was the build up with Hartnell. He was winning by panels, and it was very intense. And then the third Cox Plate was equaling Kingston Town's record. We expected to win it quite easy, and it ended up being quite a close finish. So then to come into yesterday, all we're thinking is, well, not why we're doing this, but are we tempting with fate? Yes, she's still going great, but everybody knows what can happen on a racetrack. You guys better than anyone. So that was the only pressure going into the race. When you had the right horse, but you dare not think about winning with a horse like Winks. It might sound crazy. Everybody sees she's a short price favourite, and for obvious reasons, but not in our eyes. You're always looking at the negatives and what may go wrong. And as I said, you dare not think about winning. And when they do cross the line with that last 100 metres, which appears to be dominant, it's very surreal. And I wouldn't say you go into shock, but it's just a very numb feeling. You just like, it's just like a wave of people coming at you, and it's just an amazing experience to be in. You're treated like a rock star for the day, all for one reason, a rock star horse. She's just a superstar.
Chris, it feels like every step of the preparation this year's gone perfectly.
Bruce, the last 1,000 days has been probably more to the point, and you know as well as anybody what can go wrong with a horse. The first day of its preparation through to in the paddock, I'm not saying everything's gone perfectly, but everything's been manageable. And fortunately, the 3 weeks leading into a race, every time, she's just been perfect. And from a soundness perspective, the horse's attitude perspective, the preparation. And I think it all comes down for her being so good. And it's, don't ever doubt how good she is, because 29 times in a row, everybody has to do their job well, but I'm sure there's been times where I've had 10% fitness queries, or Hugh Bowman said, well, I could have ridden that 10% better, but each and every time she turns our 10% queries into 20% better than the horses she's racing against. Maybe not 20%, but she's got that much up her sleeve that she just makes us all look so good.
Chris, it feels like yesterday after the race you become almost public property for at least an hour or two on television. Do you get a chance to sit down and have a glass of wine or a cup of tea or wherever else you celebrate and actually enjoy it for 5 or 10 minutes yourself or with the family and sort of take it all in?
Yes, I do, for sure. I'm not there sitting there now. I'm sitting in my backyard and just sort of tidying up a few little things and, talking to you guys, watching the TV in the background, and, life's pretty good. And I'll spend the day with my family today, and Winks can do her thing. And today's my silly Sunday, perhaps. I have a few beers, and I won't be too far away from opening the first one, to tell you the truth.
Fair enough.
Chris, I know the future for this horse doesn't need to be decided anytime soon, and I know a lot of people are going to want to know whether she races on. I presume that decision hasn't been made. Just can you explain to us how a decision like that is made? Do you sit down with a lunch or in a meeting format with the owners, and do they say to you, we want to do this, or do you say, I think the horse is capable of holding up to this, and you talk about where her body's at? How does a meeting about the future of Winx look?
Well, we had one about 6 weeks ago. It would have been before one of the big races. I'm not sure which one it was, but maybe for the Turnbull or something like that. And we sat down. It took about 5 minutes, and it was overwhelmingly supportive of, if anyone's got a problem, she's retired. But let's be sensible. Put the horse first. Firstly, from a soundness perspective, if she's 100% sound, well, she can keep racing. If her body language is good, well, she can keep racing. If the jockey's happy, the trainer's happy, she can keep racing. And last of all, the owners were fully supportive of whatever is decided. So there's been no talk, and the fact is, if she's still well, she can keep racing. So the only thing that enters our mind is just tempting with fate. Race day injuries, which can happen, but you only have to be pretty quick in your thinking to know that all these injuries can happen in paddocks. They can happen having foals, you name it. So I think there's a pretty strong chance that she could race in the autumn. But as I said, we'll have another chat soon. She'll be gone over properly by the vets from head to toe, and body language will be examined. And I think the fact is we're just looking after her so well, and having 3 or 4 runs every prep, goes for a holiday for 6 weeks and then starts to build up again. So that's been a big help in longevity. And the only other thing I'd say is, look, we obviously want her to go out on a winning note. We do tempt with fate, taking on the best that's in Australia. We don't go hiding. Everybody knows where we're running. Hopefully that day doesn't come, but if it does, we'll be man enough to say, well, yeah, we've stepped one step too far.
Chris, it's probably a step further down the road, but at the end of her racing, will the current ownership group breed her or sell her, or is that a decision that hasn't been broached at this point?
I would say they would. But I haven't discussed it with them. I'm sure they've had their own thoughts, but they seem tight enough to stay together. And look, these horses have amazing values, but it's and you guys have had like your Shamrockers and that, but this horse is like she just can't be sold really. It's just she's just part of the family, and I don't think it'll ever happen. It would just be impossible to let her go. And yeah, she's their horse forever, and they'll be patting her and cuddling her, and I'm sure spending time with her for many, many years to come.
Chris, I'm sure when you're in the eye of the storm, as you have been for the last month or two when she's racing, you have to go through your process, and she has to go through her process. Once that stops, and on a day like today, or when you're driving to work in the car this week, do you ever sort of think to yourself, how did a bloke like me from Foxton end up here in the middle of all this? Do you ever sort of pinch yourself as you hear that some All Blacks do from time to time and have to remind themselves how remarkable this all is?
Yeah, for sure. And look, in everyday life, no, because she's just another horse to us, and I say that as true as it is. She gets the same work, the same feed, everything the same as the other horses. She basically has a full-time strapper, almost 2, with her all the time. But apart from that, she's just another horse. And what makes it quite surreal is, like yesterday, firstly, the people on track, that like 10% of them had Winx jackets on, and 20% had, or 30% had Winx hats. Now the 10% had flags. Like everybody had something to do with Winx, basically, and just the appreciation she gets from some pretty high profile people, from The owners we all had an invitation from the Prime Minister to go and see him on Wednesday. I knocked it back. You might find quite funny, but that's Winx. We put her first ahead of all these great things, and the All Blacks, for example, they came and saw her prior to the first game of the Bledisloe Cup, and that's what she reaches out and touches, and that to me is quite surreal. And that's just a couple of examples, but it's just she's reached everybody in Australia on the mainstream TVs morning and nights before, and fortunately after her races.
Okay, Chris, we're going to go away and have another close look at the Cox Plate. I suggest you probably go away and open that first beer, and it goes good with bacon and eggs, apparently. I don't know for sure. And well, thank you for joining us yet again, probably first cab off the rank on weigh-in, and hopefully we'll do it again on several other occasions in the autumn.
Absolute pleasure, guys, and I wish New Zealand racing all the very best. It looks like there's some changes about to happen, and I can tell you, stick with them, and they won't be easy, but for the better of racing, it'll be fantastic. And I've done it firsthand, or experienced it firsthand, being in New South Wales. We were on the rocks probably 10 years ago, and now we've got the best prize money in the world, bar none. And there's a lot of people that get the benefit of it. Obviously, I've got a big stable and get a huge income from prize money, but I can tell you it feeds a lot of mouths, and those racing dollars, as it should be called, just get reinvested so many times. I've never had a person come up to me, and we've had multi-million-dollar horses and stallion deals, and they never come up to you and say at the end of the season, "Oh, thanks very much, I bought a house." They normally say, "Oh, thanks very much, I've bought more horses, or bought a mare, or sent a mare to a better stallion, or obviously had some improvements in their life, but a racing dollar gets turned around so many times, and I think that's what the government need to understand.
Thanks, mate. And we are looking for people to get round the table in the conversation. And since you're the automatic ambassador for New Zealand racing over there in Australia, it seems, I think we'll probably give you a nudge and see if you can get round and throw a few ideas at us, because
For sure.
I think back here in New Zealand, we're a wee bit quiet on the genius front.
No, well done, guys. We'll be right.
Thanks, mate. Well, that's Chris Waller. He is an ambassador to New Zealand. He just, I don't know, he just somehow encapsulates the moment perfectly, even when on many occasions it's a bit speechless.
It is, yeah. No, and he hasn't changed either with all his success. He's very approachable, and he's a great ambassador for the sport.
Yeah, he's what you hoped, and so is you, what you hope people will be like when they have some success. And you go back to the All Blacks or the Black Caps in the last couple of years, and they're how you hope they would behave, and they don't make dicks of themselves, and he doesn't carry on. He very rarely says the word I. It's always about the horse, and I don't have to deal with him very often, but I found him fantastic to deal with. There's so many different angles to this race, and some of the footage coming out of the Valley yesterday was absolutely superb. But at no stage did you feel like she was in danger. Like, it just worked out beautifully. I think a lot of people thought Ben Battle might lead, and if Ben Battle led, well, then she was going to have to chase him down. Now, the horse who's out the back here is Kingsmill Dream. He's pulled up and he's found to have had some sort of structural damage afterwards. So Ben Battle here is the first surprise. De Gento has led and parks him out there. And there's Winx 3 wide slightly. And then, Bruce, this gets slightly weird here because Chris Johnson actually ends up from the 1-1 in the trail, which puts Winx beautifully in the running line.
Yeah, it actually helps Hugh Bowman, doesn't it? Chris Johnson's move to the fence just shortly there. He crosses down. He's in a bit of strife though, Chris. That Savvy copes back to her old tricks of over-racing, going very keen. She was closer in the run than we thought, and she didn't settle, and that's disappointing in terms of where she's going to end up. The cost of that extra exertion through the early stages. Only moderate tempo, so a 12.3, 12.3, high 11s throughout, so it wasn't strong tempo. At this point in the race, Ben Battle in third is getting a lovely run. He switched off and he was looking like he could produce his absolute best, but Winx is right on his tail. Further back in the field then to Humidor, tracking Winx as he did last year, but Winx is getting one off the fence this year and having a much better trip. D'Argento, Rostropovich leading it down the side. Ben Battle's about poised and ready to go, and as Winks peels out, she flushes out Ben Battle, and we'll leave it to Matthew Hill to bring it home in the 2018 Cox Plate.
After 2 lengths off the lead, followed by Savvy Cope. Rostropovich just in front of D'Argento, but here she comes, and the valley roars. Weeks on the outside moves up, takes the lead from Ben Battle, then Rostropovich and D'Argento into the straight at the 200 metres. It's Weeks in front by a length. Ben Battle's going with her. Weeks 3/4, Ben Battle. Weeks is staving off Ben Battle. Cometh the hour, cometh the legend. Greatness, Weeks has done it. It's Equine Utopia. 2 legs to Ben Battle.
Just before we go and listen to the horses and well, not the horses, the jockeys that were out there in the thick of the history-making race, was Ben Battle another measure of this mare's greatness? The fact that she managed to beat such a highly rated horse, you think?
Yeah, I think he's been. Well, Ben Battle, he's won the Caulfield Stakes at his last win. Back in March, he was winning in Dubai on the turf. He was very good form in Dubai and came out of Germany in July with a Group 1 win. The only question mark next to Ben Battle's form is that he hasn't actually been at his best at home, but he has run 5th in an international stakes behind Raging Lion.
He's rated 123, but she's rated as high as 131, 132. Like, you would expect Enable to beat Ben Battle that easily.
Yeah, right.
So the conversation isn't whether she's better than Ben Battle. Interesting point during the week when Matt Chapman said that Winks isn't beating much. While you could say he was wrong, by the same token, Ben Battle take Winks out, wins the Cox Plate by 3. So you could argue that yes, she is clearly better than all of our horses, but the Europeans are next best. But Enable would beat Ben Battle by that much too. I'm not saying Enable's as good as Winks. Having seen both of them live in the last month and a half, I think at 2,000 metres, Winks would be too quick for Enable, but Enable does run on the speed, which gives her that advantage. I think at 2,400 out of Winks's training comfort zone, it might be slightly different, but there's no point in comparing them. They're both great mares.
I just thought
remarkable mares. The other thing is, Enable's going to the Breeders' Cup, so she is going to travel. The thing with Winks is she doesn't need to travel. Like, for her to travel to Europe is only an ego play, Bruce, because it's about money or getting to meet the Queen and get to wear the top hat, which they do at Ascot. Whereas the prize money is so enormous in Australia, you're only talking ego. There's no stallion value in her going up there. What's interesting, and I'll ask you about this because you know more about this than we do, when she does retire, which we would presume is going to be after the Queen Elizabeth in autumn and then breed from next season, does she travel then? Because you have the option to go to Europe and go to Galileo or go to Frankel or go to Japan and go to Deep Impact or something like that. Whereas at home you have Snitzel and you have I'm Invincible or those sort of horses. Would you be tempted to take her to Galileo, so if you got a filly, you had a future broodmare and a whole new branch to the family?
Yeah, for sure. We've seen the Valachi Downs with their good mare take her to
Silent Achiever.
Yeah, Silent Achiever. So it's got to be an option. It's a fantastic discussion to have, isn't it? At some stage, just sitting around the table deciding on a mating for her.
I just thought any doubt around Weeks yesterday, even though there wasn't much, was possibly due to the fact that those two Godolphin horses battled out that race, the Caulfield Stakes, was it, a couple of weeks ago, and beat up Humidor on that by some margin and a couple of other Australian
and
horses.
they finished that far in front of Humidor again yesterday.
That's right, yeah. So, I just thought there was maybe a measure of Winks that hadn't been measured before, in the sense that she's beating up on Humidor on all the same horses, and she actually had a really highly rated European horse, just to give us another indication as to how good she was. Let's hear from Ocean Murphy and a few of the other also-rans, if you can call them that, in such a historic race yesterday, the Cox Plate.
Big run. We've met a champion in Winks, and she was very impressive today. Full credit to her team, Chris Waller, owners, and Hugh Bowman.
He ran terrific. Obviously followed her the whole way and down the side. When she quickened around him, I just couldn't go with her. And thought he was brave in the third, tried hard.
Yeah, he ran super. Came around the corner with a bit of horse under me, and he gave me a good kick. So next Tuesday, welcome.
Yeah, look, he's ran a nice race. He had to do it. A lot of hard work, but win as a champion. Nice to see her.
Yeah, we ended up in front. He got in a nice rhythm and used himself well. He obviously Ryan come up and sort of hassled me a little bit, but he stayed in a nice rhythm. Seemed to use the energy well. It was just a case of not really using his stride efficiently around Moonee Valley that ended up bringing him undone. But look, he's a 2,000 metre winner, and I wouldn't be against trying it again in the future.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. It felt just when he left the gates as if maybe he hit that quarter that he cut himself last year. It was as if he hit a nerve or something, because his action was bad for a few strides when he left the gate, and then he came good. Once I turned the corner, it was like he hit a nerve again, and his action just went a bit. So we just pulled him up. Look, he was fine.
It's good to know that he was fine. So I guess a bit of reverence in terms of respect for Winks, and also the also-rans giving their opinions on how their horses faced up and finished in the Cox Plate. Just to go, before we go to the break, more Cox Plate reaction, including the Savvy Cope Camp's day out in the sun, I suppose you could say. Just run this by me, Bruce. Who was Matt Chapman?
He was given too much time through the week. A friend of mine described him as duplicitous. He's a bit of a shock jock and a journalist out of England. I'm pretty sure it doesn't reflect the opinion of most English people.
I tell you what, he'll get flowing down for the championships. Volandis would absolutely love that. It's Stephen Jones, the rugby thing. Just pull at the string and upset everybody and get them all going. Let's be honest, it was going to be quite a boring lead-up week, because every Winks story ever done has been done, including a guy who tried to sell her poo on eBay. That's a true story. A guy proposed to Winks yesterday at Moonee Valley. That's a true story.
Right. What'd she say?
I don't know what she said. I think she probably said no. And the Pittman story was a wonderful story, but there was nothing else. There was nothing else.
I just said that because...
So Matt Chapman got there and mouthed off at the barrier draw that the horses she wasn't beating weren't very good.
Even flustered Chris.
Exactly, and everybody got involved. And people love that stuff. It may be garbage, it may not be garbage. Just like Stephen Jones slagging the All Blacks. Everybody in the media gets upset. Matt Chapman will get business class flights to go to the championships because Volandis loves that sort of stuff, and he'll stand up at their luncheon and he'll say the same thing, and the Sydney media will lap it up. The Herald Sun this morning, Herald Sun's the major tabloid paper in Melbourne, had a 24-page souvenir Winks edition.
Wow.
24 pages. So that's how big Winks was yesterday. More about the Cox Plate on the other side of this break, but we have Matt Chapman talking about
I wanted to know who this next guy was.
Eating humble pie and chips and whatever English people
Matt Chapman to the break, as they say.
There are lots of bad ways of getting a high in this world, but this is a really good way to get a high. And everyone will leave here tonight partying to this evening. It'll mean that more people will probably watch horse racing next week, which is what we all want. So everyone is a winner. Did Winks prove that she's most amazing horse on the planet tonight? No. Did she prove she's incredibly special, unique, and does something that no other horse has ever done? Yes. Do we love her? Yes. Do we respect her? Yes. Do we love and respect her connections? Yes. And the greatest thing that's happened, and thing is not a great word, but that's the one I'm going to use because I can't think of any other at the minute. The greatest thing that's happened here is we've got a 7-year-old mare. And you know, 7-year-old mares do not become champions in this game. She's done it, and that's testament to Waller, the team, the strappers that look after this horse, and to Hugh Bowman, who has never, ever made a mistake. And it's hard for a jockey not to make a mistake eventually.
You've certainly added a lot to the carnival. Great to catch up, and look forward to seeing you down under again.
Well, thanks for everyone's respect. Everyone's been very nice. Well, most people have been very nice to me. I've come out without having to go to the local hospital, so I feel it's been a good day for everyone. And just look, on a personal note, congratulations to Winks. You're a deserved champion. You've made history, and we all love you.